With the college football season just under 2 weeks remaining before kickoff, the AP and the coaches polls already out, you've already got some fan bases that are crying about their rankings. And of course, at the top of the list is the Georgia Bulldogs.
Bruh. You weak, pathetic fool. All too easy.
And the team that's at the top of the list boasts only 7 returners, and they're living in the past of their national championships. Want to find out who this team is and why they need to just simmer down and figure out how to play their way in as opposed to complaining? Stay tuned to find out on Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Welcome back, Gabbers. Thank you all so much for joining us here on another edition, or the first edition of the 2025 season of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Of course, you're gabbing with the one and only Mr. CeeLo. And guys, I just wanted to give a big gab out to my man Brad, who has been bouncing around over my other platforms, supporting me. I appreciate it. But and to all of you that have missed out on me since I've gone dormant on this channel, I'm back. So I don't want to let you guys miss out on me giving my all for this channel and whatnot. But my other channels are growing and this one's kind of stagnant. So if you guys are okay with watching me give my collegiate expertise, feel free to jump on in. But I got a bone to pick with this certain team, and Brad knows who I'm talking about. Look, you won a national championship a couple years ago, but that doesn't carry over the next season. Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs.
It's not funny, Ed. Hey, shut up!
Real disrespect is when you look at teams that finish high and bring a lot of guys back, and they're not getting the same buzz. Honestly, I'm going to say Clemson deserves to be higher than Ohio State. Given the fact that they're losing so many important pieces. Now, everybody's talking about Jeremiah Smith as well as Caleb Downs. That's 2 guys. But we're not going to get into that aspect of it. Let's get into why I'm really irritated with the Georgia Bulldogs and their fans. Now, everybody that watches my platform knows that me and Brad are really good friends. And he comes to me and he comments on the show. But I'm just going to be honest with you. For Georgia fans that are saying they should be number 1, and I'm going to be honest, this is a podcast that's on TV, and a lot of Georgia fans watch it. And there were a lot of Georgia fans in their comments complaining.
Bruh.
I've got the podcast saved, and I am going to blast them and leave the link in my comments when Georgia doesn't win a national championship. Reason being is that's what you do when you rank a team number 1. You think that they're the best team in the country, not with your gut instinct or you're basing it on potential. But guys, I can name 6 or 7 teams that are better potential-wise than what that Georgia's bringing to the party.
You fucking idiot.
Now, I'm going to go down a list of things because this frustrated me. The thing is, be realistic. I'm surprised that you had teams that coaches and Associated Press that believed Georgia was better than Notre Dame.
Stop the cap.
And where your decision was lingering was the now known entity of whether CJ Carr was going to be the starting quarterback or Kenny Minchey. By the way, if you didn't catch that, CJ Carr was named starting quarterback this evening. With that being said, Let's start at the quarterback position. You got everybody saying, oh, yeah, man, Gunnar Stockton broke all those records at his high school.
Dumb shit. Dumb shit.
This ain't high school. And I'm not going to sit here and say Gunnar Stockton's not a good player. And he won't be a good player. I'm saying this will be his third official start?
Get going. You like to see that again? It's hard to catch the first time.
Coming up, and I mean, the reality of it is, I get it. A lot of people are going to look at the start, and it's going to be against Marshall, which I can see. But then he's got overrated Tennessee in Knoxville, which in my opinion, this is not going to be a game. And then you got him going, he's got Alabama coming into Athens. And then you got Kentucky, who don't sleep on them. And then you got to go to Auburn, which they could be a different team this year. You know, we've always seen that the Deep South's oldest rivalry always ends up being a contest whether Auburn's exceptionally good or exceptionally bad. And of course, this game's in Auburn, Alabama. So this is definitely going to be a different take. And then, of course, Ole Miss has to come visit. I think Ole Miss is a little bit overrated. And then you've got the Gators, who are way overrated, in my opinion. I don't think DJ Lagaway is everything that everybody thinks. I think he's another Anthony Richardson, whom, by the way, was benched in favor of Daniel Jones.
What?
Yeah. Then, of course, you got Mississippi State, and then a game that's probably going to be very costly for the Georgia Bulldogs is going to be that showdown in Athens with Texas. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it won't move them down far. Oh, this could be a painful game for the Bulldogs. It very well could. And then, of course, they got Charlotte before they take on the Yellow Jackets. So this could be a huge matchup. I mean, you're talking about Georgia's got to go, and they have to play within a 3-week spell. You've got Texas, then you got Charlotte, and then you got Georgia Tech. So I get it, you got Charlotte in the middle of that, but you got Georgia Tech there. Oh, yeah, you got Georgia Tech there. Don't sleep on the Yellow Jackets. But just going through the schedule to kind of show, Gunnar Stockton's going to have some really tough defenses and some possibly high-scoring offenses to deal with. And see, this is the problem I see with a lot of people. They're sitting here saying that Georgia's defense is what it's been in the past. I'm not so sure. Generally, you know, people will say, oh, they reload. But the other thing is Georgia hasn't had to replace as many guys.
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question.
Georgia's got 11 guys returning that were starters last year, but not on this team. They've only got 7 guys that started on this Georgia team.
You want answers?
Ain't a lot.
I want the truth.
Ain't a lot from a team that was bounced in the semis.
You can't handle the truth.
See, at least if you were able to hang on to a guy like Carson Beck, you had something to talk about. You having to break in Gunnar Stockton. And I'm going to say this. I don't think they lost that game to Notre Dame all because of him. I don't think Gunnar Stockton should shoulder any of the blame. I think for the first time, you can honestly say that, well, not even the first time. I think you can say probably one of the few times that Kirby Smart was outcoached.
Damn you!
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.
And I'm of the belief there's going to be about 3 or 4 games where Georgia's resilience is going to be tested. And honestly, Georgia could walk out of the season with 3 losses. But let's go down the reason why I'm irritated with anyone that sits there and says, Georgia's the number 1 team in the country. Okay. Number 1, the most important player on the field, of course, is the quarterback. We see the 2 teams that are at the top of this whole pyramid. And I would argue the 3 top teams in this whole bucket are sitting there. And let's get this right, people, because I believe the AP got it wrong and the coaches poll got it wrong. And I'll tell you why. Because Ohio State should not be in there. They lost too much. There, you can honestly say there's favoritism there. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Even Texas, I think everybody's putting Texas up there for the simple fact that Arch Manning's about to take over. And a lot of people anticipating, they didn't have nearly as many guys coming. They had quite a few, but their entire offensive line. So then you look at Penn State and Clemson. To me, these are the two teams that should be 1 and 2. And I'm putting Clemson over Penn State. I'm not here to do the whole coaches thing, but what I'm doing is making a comparison. Clemson is loaded. I think they got something like 13 to 16 players coming back from last year's team. And they got at least 5 guys that are going to be first-round picks, not to mention Cade Klubnik. And I had a friend of the show say he's not sold on Cade Klubnik. I could see that. But then he has his tight end, he has his wide receiver, and even a couple of running backs coming back outside of Phil Maffa. Line, and you got a really dangerous football team that is very opportunistic on the defensive side. They've got a linebacker, defensive tackle, and defensive edge guy that is looking like first-round picks. That's not a headache you want any part of. But anyway, the point I'm making is, Georgia, you don't have that. You don't even have the one element that could put you in this argument, and that's the quarterback position returning. And there's a lot of teams that don't have the quarterback coming back. I'm not just talking about Georgia, but Georgia's the one that's doing the most complaining. And they have no reason to be complaining. You got it by easy. You got over the team that beat you in the college football playoff and beat you pretty daggone good, too. With NFL prospects. Now, I know what you're going to say. Well, they probably have NFL prospects, too. Yeah. Very true. But they at least have an established running game. They at least have an offensive line that's pretty doggone good. Linebacking core that's arguably one of the best in the country. And a secondary that is more than likely the best in the country.
Damn, I'm good.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you consider what Illinois has got coming back, and then you look at what Miami has. I'm not counting LSU because half their roster is made up of starters on other people's teams. Just because you did that on this, don't mean you're going to do it here. We can look at Nick Scorton, the transfer out of Purdue. He was a beast and a monster in Purdue, but then he went to A&M last season. Just saying. And then you got South Carolina, who had quite a few guys go in that draft last season. You got to replace that. So, Georgia fans, you don't have a running game. This is something that has surprised me with Georgia the last 3 years. And Brad, you know I've been saying it. How in the heck can you have the term RBU and you ain't put out no running backs? I'm trying to figure this one out. You ain't putting no running backs out. Your running game has been obsolete. So when your passing game ain't getting it done, you can't even lean on your running game.
Is that your best?
That's a problem. That is a huge problem. Especially when you think Georgia Bulldogs. You were in the bottom third. I think it was like 89th or something in rushing yards a game. Oh, and let's not get started on yards per carry. Y'all were less than, I think, like 3 yards maybe. May have been 3 yards, so. Then you had to go into the portal. And you got 2 wide receivers. And you're bringing back one. But you got Gunnar Stockton, who's a guy that is good at slinging that thing down the field. I think ultimately you got some big wheels coming in the transfer portal. The problem I see with this whole situation is, where are the Bulldogs going to primarily run their offense? I know a lot of people are talking about, they've got a couple of big names on the roster of the running back room, but they're not established. And then I must tell you, if we're going to sit here and we're going to really put ourselves out there and say, okay, this is the team that has it figured out, I don't think Georgia has an identity. But then you got these guys that are on these podcasts, and I'll name this podcast eventually once the dogs go down. Sorry, Brad. But the reality of it is, look, I don't like hearing you cry and complain. I heard somebody on a Penn State podcast crying and complaining. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not going to say what I want to say about Penn State. I'll do that on another show because that was cowardice. And I thought the college football playoff was all about playing somebody. Let's just say if Penn State falls, they need to be done. I don't care how good your roster is. You need to be able to play a schedule that is worth looking at. And that's just the honest goodness truth about the whole thing. The whole point of creating a college football playoff so teams would stop running from these big games. As I said before, Penn State ain't got a strong enough they don't have a strong enough schedule that they can sit here and just run from every daggone challenge that they can get in the conference. That's just like, I can even question Georgia's schedule a little bit here because the only out-of-conference scheduled game they got that I would even remotely say is a good game is Georgia Tech. The rest of them are just like, really? And then I'll tell anybody, Brad, I know you're going to disagree with me, but I'm fixing to tell you. This is what everybody is sitting here talking about. They're saying, okay, Tennessee's tough. No, they ain't. Their defense front's going to be good. No Nico? Alabama, I think they're extremely overrated. I mean, you talking about a young guy starting at quarterback for Alabama, and then there's a bunch of unknowns. Remember, this is an Alabama team that didn't make the college football playoff. I think they're overrated. I think Auburn's underrated a little bit. I know a lot of people are going to say, but a lot of those guys came back. And I know a lot of people are going to say, they had a losing record. Okay. That's what makes them ever more dangerous. Then you got Ole Miss, a team that has lost Jackson Dart. To me, 21 is almost perfect. I think they'll end up being 21. I think that's a perfect spot. And then, of course, there's Texas. Florida's way overrated. So this schedule in hindsight is... So I don't want to hear this whole narrative their schedule's tough and that they got this ranked type schedule. I don't want to hear that. Because the reality of it is, yes, Florida has it tough, but a lot of these teams are overrated. Florida's overrated, Tennessee's overrated, and I think marginally Alabama's overrated. So when we sit here and we talk about, what needs to be done and this, that, and and the other, hell no. Georgia is getting to be like Alabama. They don't want to play nobody outside of their conference. They'll stick with the Georgia Techs, and as soon as Georgia Tech gets big enough, they'll probably do away with clean old-fashioned hate. Just like USC's trying to do away with the USC-Notre Dame rivalry.
It's official. You suck.
The other thing is when I look at this Georgia football team is I will admit that they have some weapons coming in on that outside. Now, the question is, the one I'm really enamored with is the transfer Noah Thomas. I think this guy is a nightmare. I was looking at him at 6'6", 200 pounds. He had 39 catches for 574 yards. You could look at it and kind of say maybe it was injuries. Maybe it was the fact that Martez, the quarterback at over at Texas A&M, just wasn't getting in the ball, which that's a possibility. He's not a pure pocket passer. But I think the way Gunnar Stockton is going to be coached, I think he's going to be coached to throw that thing up if there's one-on-one. I think he could be a nightmare if Kirby Smart does have his offense coordinator and Mike Bobo say, hey, let's just create something. Do I think this guy can create a lot of mismatches on the boundary as well as in the running game? Absolutely. And let me explain to you why. When you got this guy on the field and he is such a threat that he keeps safeties out of the box. And when you have a guy that can do that, eliminate the safety from the box, that means you're not going to have that guy in the area to stop certain run plays. He's not just going to be able to run up on that line of scrimmage and make plays, which is huge, especially if you get to a point where you're getting 3-yard chunk 3-yard bits because you end up in a 4th and 1, or you end up in a possibility of a quick possibility in a 3rd and 4, and you get it. Georgia has not been able to run the football consistently, I would say, for the better part of the last 3 years. They don't have anybody in that backfield. That really scares me. Now, you're going to get a whole bunch of Georgia fans that are going to make the comment and say, man, what are you talking about? What about Nate Frazier? What about Josh McCray? So Nate Frazier ain't showed me nothing. You all talking about guys that are unproven. That was the problem I had with this podcast, saying that Georgia fans were complaining because they felt disrespected. I think they could be the best team in the country. Watch me, yo. No. I'm not saying Texas is the number 1 team. I will say that I think Clemson and Penn State are the ones that are disrespected. Because at the end of the day, Georgia, you lost after the bye week, which would have been considered the quarterfinals. You didn't make it to the semis, which is where you were supposed to be preseason. Matter of fact, certain analysts picked you to win it all. You didn't even make the college football championship game. And this ain't no disrespect to Georgia fans. You guys have to be level set. Y'all are one of a few bases that need to be level set. Every year since 1999, it's been y'all's year. And here you are again, saying that you disrespected. Here's the thing. Play like you've disrespected.
What the?
All right? Also, looking at, you got Noah Thomas, the big beast. That's the guy that I'm looking at for you guys that's really going to play well. And, of course, you got Dylan Bell coming back. He definitely is a Georgia guy that didn't do very much last year. And I think a lot of it was his lack of good route running. Carson Beck was still good. Zachariah Branch, the wide receiver from USC, who had 47 catches with 503 yards. Then you look at Oscar Delp, whom is a guy I really like. I like his size. I like his ability to use his soft hands and whatnot and as a red zone threat. Then you got Lawson Lucky, who's also a big body. I think ultimately, if Georgia's going to have success this season, I think the tight ends is where you're going to have to go. And you're going to have to start setting up the blueprints to start running the football again. Maybe Nate Frazier can be that guy that brings the running game back to Athens. Then we look and we see the only offensive lineman coming back in Ernest Green. And he was banged up back 2 years ago. If you're a team facing off against the Dogs, you really don't know what they have on that offensive line. All you're hearing is like a bunch of analysts, untapped potential.
What a dumbass!
We don't judge based on untapped potential. It's a what have you done for me lately league. Just like the NFL. On the D-line, you got Christian Miller. You got C.J. Allen on the outside at the linebacker position, where he came up with 76 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 5 pass breakups, and 1 interception. So, in your front 7, you've only got 2 guys. And this is the problem I have with wannabe analysts that think they know. You don't have a third of the guys coming back. Hell, Notre Dame's got more coming back. They got more starters coming back on those 2 positions. Then you look at the secondary. You got Adrian Maddox, who started at Alabama State. He's considered one of your starters. Then you got Jaden Harris, who was on that terrible Miami defense last year. You literally, if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, are depending on guys that were not on your team last year. You don't have a single guy that played on this defense last year in this secondary that played on this team last year. So how can you have these wine boxes having a podcast talking about Georgia should be number 1? And I'll tell you why.
Stupid. Stop the cap.
And I sat and I listened to it. potential, potential, potential. We don't rank teams based on potential. We based on what we see at that moment. Now, when we get to a point where it's like, okay, this could be even and even and even, then we run back through and we just kind of look at it and we say, okay, this team has the potential to be here, but is that going to overshadow what this team brings or actually brings? Or we add what this team actually brings plus the players that we think could be great. Does that overshadow that? I can look at that and tell you Georgia doesn't overshadow Notre Dame. Georgia doesn't overshadow Clemson. Georgia doesn't overshadow Penn State. And it doesn't overshadow Texas. Georgia fans, realize something. Out of 22 starters, you only have 7. And then you add 4 more for another team. I don't count that. And I'm going to tell you why I don't count that. It's simply because when you have another player coming from another team, he doesn't necessarily run the same things or ran the same schemes that you ran. And that's no benefit to you until you actually see him on game day. Now, the question I have for many of you Georgia fans is, has my analysis swayed you that Georgia should not be preseason number 1? 7 returning starters. Not one of them's the quarterback. Now, a lot of you are going to say, oh, yeah, he was. No. 2 games don't count. They don't count. No. Let me know what you guys think. Brad, I already know you got something for me, but this ain't hate. This is all love. And see, like I was telling you, it's analysts like those 2 guys I was telling you guys about. I'm going to put their podcasts out there, but that's after when Georgia's done at the end of the year. But we have to have content creators that are realistic. And unfortunately, there's a lot of content creators that are very, very unrealistic. Unrealistic to the point that they put out propaganda to make their fan base pissed off to the point that they want to go and start bitching at somebody. We don't do that over here. But anyway, leave your names down in the comments. When you join the show, make sure you leave your comment down there. If you're a Georgia fan and you don't like what I said, hey, cool, let's go at it. I'll bring up your comment on the next show and we can talk about it. Convince me if you think Georgia's the number 1 team. Please, I'm willing to listen. I even tell Brad. Brad will tell you I'm willing to listen. But you got to convince me with facts, not your opinions. Can't have less returning starters than the teams that you're ahead of and think you're number 1. Or you can't have less starters than the teams that are in front of you and you think they're going to put you over the top. You ain't got it like Texas. Not yet. But anyway, look me over on Facebook at Gridiron Gab Triple Option. And make sure you join the group as well as join the Facebook page. Finally, if you want to get caught up on the things that I am involved in, you can look me up over on Instagram at Mr. CeeLo on Instagram. But until the next time, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.